default swap contracts, that she floods the market with these sell orders, these bogus flash orders to manipulate the prices. So that's all at JP Morgan as well. Goldman Sachs is their specialty, as you pointed out earlier. They're more out in the Eurozone. They've destroyed Greece. They're attacking Portugal. They're undermining Spain. They've totally corrupted Brussels. They're really trying. They're all over Europe. I mean, I live 3 blocks from their France headquarters, so I see those guys all the time going in and out of there with their briefcases and shiny loafers, plotting to destroy various countries for a quick buck. But mostly it's JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon, who's, of course, whispered to be the next Treasury Secretary after Timothy Geithner. I guess they would have to do some kind of huge flash crash first to create a huge crisis to slip that smelly, putrid appointment under the noses of the people. But which I expect that coming, by the way. We are on the cusp of another huge downdraft based on the growing instability of these markets due to the fact that all that happened in the last 36 months is that the central banks added $15 to $20 trillion of bad debt to their books. They can't service that debt. The economies aren't growing enough to service the debt. So there's going to be, we're definitely on course to what we've been saying on your show now for 2 years, of some kind of global devaluation. You mentioned earlier a global tax mentioned by Joe Biden. We've talked about this many times on your show. The reason there's an income tax in America is to pay the interest on the debt for the Federal Reserve Bank. When you create a global reserve bank, like they are in the process of doing, to roll up all these bad debts into special drawing rights or some new global currency, they will have to create a global tax to pay the interest on this new debt. That's the plan. Hello?
World, they're announcing that world government is going to take everybody's liberty for their own good. They're announcing how lucky we are to have this happening. What heroes Jamie Dimon and, of course, Bernanke are, and why does everybody hate him? I mean, that's the actual headline here in the Atlantic. Ben Bernanke saved the global economy, so why does everybody hate him? And of course, he's just a front man for these guys. But we know they want to raise taxes, cut benefits, and keep taking over. But now people are learning that they're the authors of our doom. Everybody's buying guns. I don't see them at the end of the day getting away with this. What's their exit strategy? What are they thinking? Or are they so crazy, it's like, why upgrade the nuclear reactors? Let them blow up. I mean, it's just like total psycho behavior.
Well, I just saw a report that was saying why the pink slime, which they've discovered is 20% of the hamburger meat in America, it really is a good thing. And that people shouldn't disparage the wonderful qualities of pink slime.
It's got ammonia in it. Cancer's good. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
So if you own all the media outlets, except yours, of course, if you own all the other media outlets, and you can create any reality you want. And if see, the great thing about financial terrorism, and we saw this in 2008, you know, they tried to pass that bailout, $750 billion. Hank Paulson went before Congress, and the initial vote was no. Then, of course, he just instructed his boys on Wall Street to hit the sell switch. There was a mini crash, and it scared the Congress people into voting yes. Same thing in Europe, same thing in Greece. To get the people to sign on, they staged these horrific financial terrorist attacks to stock market crashes, and then the people are panicked into voting whatever they're going to vote. So this is great, but this is great about having algorithmic trading, computer trading. So over 70% of all the trading on the exchanges is computer generated. And all the computer-generated trading is by algorithmic program trading that are created in the Wall Street banks. And you create an algorithm, a program that says, okay, when certain conditions are X, Y, and Z, we're going to dump, $1 trillion in orders, sell orders into the market, naked sell orders, flash crash, and we're going to create a political reality that way.
So what is its final end game then? Where does it go? Just bankers slaughtering everyone, drinking gallons of blood, dancing around like Nero?
Well, the trend toward consolidation in the banking industry is picking up speed. I imagine at the end there'll be 2 or 3 major mega banks run by 2 or 3 people who have net worths. You know, what the biggest guy in the world has a net worth of 50 billion or 60 trillion. I would imagine that at the end you'll have people with net worths of like a country. $400 billion.
Stay there.
Folks, Iran and the Mideast nuclear.
Let's go ahead and play this short clip. This is Biden yesterday. We want to create a global minimum tax because your tax money, as Max was pointing out, income taxes globally. What year we get the Federal Reserve? 1913. What year we get the income tax? 1913. What year we get the federal investigative groups that were set up to knock heads? You guessed it. Everything 1913. What year they get rid of the senators being appointed by the states? 1913. Oh, you didn't know that? The states used to run things? Yeah. Max Keiser's our guest. Let's go ahead and go to this short clip of Joe Biden, a global minimum tax. Here it is.
We want to drop the rate, particularly for high-tech manufacturers like you, Mr. President, even further than the 20%. We want to create what's called a global minimum tax because American taxpayers shouldn't be providing a larger subsidy for investing abroad than investing at home.
What a way to push global government is to claim somehow it'll help Americans. It's total bull. That's what the OECD and others say. They want an 85% global average tax rate, but he calls that lower. That's called lying to crowds. Max Keiser, that's what the globalist plan is. One mega bank over the world, privately owned, with a giant UN, global government, corporate, NATO peacekeeping army, stealing and robbing from everybody and tearing up our roads and giving us dirt roads. Basically the Hunger Games, Agenda 21. Can they get away with it, is the question, Max Keiser.
Well, if you're going to use fiscal policy or tax policy, there's $5 trillion of foreign exchange or Forex traded every single day. By applying a 0.001% tax on those transactions, which are all derivative transactions that benefit nobody except the top bankers, you would raise all the money you could ever want to raise. So Joe Biden, if he had any kind of financial literacy whatsoever and wasn't just stumping for a global central bank to continue this global nightmare and roll up a big tranche of phony debt, I mean, that he would talk about something like that. But that makes sense. What he's talking about is just more of the same.
Max, what about the left, the so-called left, criticizing myself and others for worrying about a police state? They're like, ha, 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 look, this guy thinks there's a police state. They don't call this a police state, what's already been set up?
Talking about the left for a second, there was a great piece by Matt Taibbi on his blog today talking about how the Tea Party and the Occupy Wall Street movements are joined at the hip because the Tea Party is right in that there is no government regulation, and that the Occupy Wall Street movement is also right in that you've got this huge concentration of wealth at the very top. For example, Ray Dalio, he is a hedge fund manager in Greenwich, in Westport, Connecticut. He paid himself $3.6 billion in compensation last year. That's B with a billion. $3.6 billion in compensation. He runs hundreds of billions of dollars for people. And when you have folks, individuals like back in 1993, George Soros famously broke the Bank of England. It was the first time an individual who ran a hedge fund challenged a country. He broke the Bank of England. He crashed the British pound, and he made $1 billion in 1 week. Now, all the hedge funds since then have been trying to be like Soros, amass huge amounts of money under management. And as we saw with Greece, that was cooked up with John Paulson, another hedge fund manager, Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO of Goldman Sachs. And
hold on, finish that thought. Back in 60 seconds. By the way, tonight, The Secrets of Prometheus, Infowars Nightly News, Prisonplanet.tv.
Thank you for listening to G.
And the 74th annual edition of the Hunger Games from Region 6. I saw a comment on a blog where they had the radio show post. They're like, what is this? The Hunger Games? Region 6? That's art imitating life. You understand? And this isn't art. This is life we're covering here. People say, well, the Hunger Games is anti-New World Order. How are you saying it's a conditioning tool? Because it's shown as fiction. It acclimates people. And what you see in films like that is exactly what the globalists had planned. I'm not saying the person's either good or bad. I don't know. Side issue, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Max Keiser, maxkeiser.com. I should have pointed that out. TV host, researcher. Max, finish your point about where you see all this going. And then I want to ask you, what made you wake up, even though you're very successful and everything, and leave the stock market and then expose it?
Well, to finish off my point, going back to Soros in '93, he was the first individual to crash a country. And so these super wealthy hedge fund managers and bankers have been doing that ever since, and they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as a result, you now have individuals who are bigger than countries, and we're seeing them crash countries to make a profit. And they're making lots of profits. And I just saw a very interesting tweet fly by in my tweet stream here that fuel is being rationed to British ambulances. So the price of fuel is so high now in Britain because of the money printing, because of the banking terrorism, because Mervyn King, the chairman of the Bank of England, is a stooge for the ruling class. The price of gas is so high, petrol, that ambulances can't afford it. Now, this is having a direct impact. This is called financial repression, when the central banks keeps the jackboot of their manipulation on interest rates so that they're near 0%. This means that money is opening a gash in the economy, and money is flooding in with that 0% rate and driving things like fuel costs higher. And while pensioners who rely on retirement income and higher interest rates can't survive. And this is all done in the name of liquidity and helping the economy, but it only helps the speculators. It only helps the top banking class, and it's causing this financial repression and huge dislocation, and it's all engineered by design, and it's pitiful. And both the right and the left are beginning to understand this. So when you asked about what do I think about this hit piece of you in a recent left-wing piece, it's unfortunate because there's now so much common ground between all disparate groups. If you're not a Goldman Sachs partner, you're in trouble. So there's no time, or it's a waste of energy to focus on. Well,
exactly. We're seeing open classical police state corruption. And I'm just saying, hey, let's get our freedom back. And I've got the right wing and the left wing. I forgot a bunch of other publications on the right attacked me over saying Obama is power grabbing now and using the military domestically. Because establishment right wing, they love that. They loved it when Bush did it. They're a bunch of establishment types claiming they're left-wing or right-wing. They're not even in the left-right paradigm. They're in the establishment's paradigm. And as you pointed out, Goldman Sachs is going to betray them.
Right. If you go amongst the top of the top, they hate each other because this guy has got $1 billion more than this guy.
Exactly. But briefly, why did you get out of it? Briefly.
Well, I don't really feel as though I ever have gotten out of it. My point, I feel that gold and silver are going to be incredible winners. But you say you did bad things on the stock market. Why did you stop doing that? Oh, well, I went on vacation to Paris back in 1990, and I fell in love with Paris, and I just said, it's not worth it. I'm going to retire, and I retired.
And now you expose what was going on. Well, Max Keiser, maxkeiser.com. Thank you so much for the time. Hopefully we can do an hour interview in the near future. People find out more at maxkeiser.com. Find out more with us at Infowars.com tonight, 7 o'clock. Prometheus. Oh, it's something special.